Season 2 of The Witcher is out, and with it comes a slew of new monsters for Geralt to slay. While there certainly seemed to be less monsters this season, the ones that we did see were pretty rad and definitely included a bunch of fan favorites. The Witcher series of books and video games are drenched in some pretty awesome monster battles, and the series has become synonymous with these epic showdowns. This video is going to cover every beast, vampire, and Chernobog in the second season of the show. Now keep in mind that we're going to explain these monsters, their abilities, and specific attributes about them from a combination of sources. The show, the video games, and the original books will all be referenced, so keep that in mind as we intertwine them all a bit casually. Today's video is sponsored by Magic Spoon. Who doesn't love cereal? I know I do, but as I got older, I stopped eating it because most cereals are chock full of sugar and crap, and I would rather eat a comic than most cereals aimed at adults. But that all changes with Magic Spoon. It's 0 grams of sugar, 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving, and it's only 140 calories. Magic Spoon also comes in a variety of flavors, like peanut butter, chocolate, fruity, and frosted. Personally, I'm pretty fond of the fruity flavor. It's actually already made it into my plastic reusable bin that my wife makes us use. It's also keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and low-carb. So click the link below to grab a variety pack and try it today, and be sure to use the promo code KEYISSUES at checkout to get $5 off any order, or go to magicspoon.com/keyissues. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee, so if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. And also, for my Canadian and British fans, Magic Spoon is now shipping to Canada and the UK. So click the link below and use code KEYISSUES for $5 off, or go to magicspoon.com/keyissues to save $5 today. The first monster or beast that we encounter in the season is Nivolin, who is more of an honorable mention. Not technically a monster, I'm including Nivolin on the list because, come on, look at this guy. He's not exactly a regular dude, right? Nivolin was once a man cursed after committing some fairly inexcusable actions. Nivolin's history in the show is kinda similar to the books. In both the books and the show, he was not particularly well loved by his father, whom he desperately wished to please and ultimately caused the death of. The show alters his backstory a bit to give him more of a highborn origin. Additionally, Geralt had never met Nivolin before encountering him in his bestial form in the short story A Grain of Truth he's featured in. Within the show, Nivolin's father hired Geralt to rid their family's land of a wyvern infestation, and Nivolin, looking to earn his father's respect, set off to kill them himself but fell into the beast's den. Geralt, being an absolute boss, managed to save him and even let him tell his father that he was responsible for killing the wyverns. However, after an undisclosed period of time, Nivolin ended up falling in with a bad crowd and was responsible for raping a priestess at the Temple of the Lion-Headed Spider. Before dying, the priestess cursed him to take on a new monstrous form. This form also appeared to bestow upon him the ability to conjure whatever he desired, at the cost of him lacking all human companionship. Nivolin returned home and, unaware of his strength and rage, killed most of his home staff. He lived alone, cursed for many years, until he eventually came to find himself falling in love with a Bruxa, or a higher vampire named Verena, which we will discuss more in a moment. Geralt eventually kills Verena, saving Nivolin's life, but not before Verena's display of love, mixed with her blood, finally undoes Nivolin's curse. Nivolin's left to face what he's done, as Geralt, in both the books and show, leaves him to his own fate. As mentioned a minute ago, in this same episode we run into Verena, a Bruxa. Bruxa are a form of higher vampire, and they are incredibly dangerous. Bruxa often choose to take the form of humans, most often an attractive woman. But one thing to keep in mind here is that these vampires are not humans that have turned into vampires as we traditionally think of them. Bruxa are monsters brought after the conjunction of spheres. Bruxa primarily feed on young men and take the form of attractive young women in order to lure them in. Obviously, the Bruxa Verena that we meet within the first episode fits firmly within that mold. Verena was responsible for killing an entire village of people before ultimately meeting her death at Geralt's hands. Bruxa often finds a victim to become their lover and a consistent supply of sustenance at the same time. These vampires do not turn someone else into one of their kind by biting them, they simply use them as food. Bruxa are also not affected by many of the things traditionally used in other media to kill vampires. Sunlight, garlic, holy symbols, all crap when facing a Bruxa. The only thing that can kill them is a silver sword and fire. One of the more impactful creatures of Season 2 was referred to as a Leshi. However, in the books and games, it's more often referred to as a Leshen. Leshys and Spriggans are both powerful forest-dwelling monsters, but the inspiration for the Leshi in Season 2 seems to come a bit from the design of the Leshen in Witcher 3: The Wild Hunt. Leshys are relics, or spirits of the forest. Leshys are fiercely territorial creatures, and they hunt with stealth and cunning as their only companions. They use their inborn magic to control the plants and animals within their territory, which makes them extremely difficult to get close to. The best chance of killing a Leshi is to use bombs or fire because, look at it, it's a tree. Trees hate fire. That's science. The next monster we're introduced to in the show is called a myriapod, and while never technically called that within the show, there were promotional materials that called this monster a myriapod. This creature does not necessarily resemble the creature in the way that it's described in the short story it's featured in, however, it is using the same name. Myriapods are essentially giant centipedes. In the short story The Sword of Destiny, Geralt comes face to face with a giant centipede and kills it as it was attempting to kill Ciri. Very similar to the show, but most likely designed this version based off of the Pale Widow that was featured in Witcher 3: Blood and Wine. The outward appearance of this specific myriapod doesn't exactly match up with anything that we've seen so far in the books or in video games, but that's what it's referred to, so that's what we have to go with. Additionally, the myriapod's body is covered in hard chitinous armor with numerous hooked limbs sticking out from underneath in order to capture and kill prey. Hey, the next monster is a giant sewer monster, and we really don't get to see it, but it's probably a Zegul, a monster that inhabits the sewers and feeds off of trash and anybody or anything unlucky enough to make their way down into the sewers. This beast feeds on the waste and filth produced by the cities they inhabit. It basically eats anything that comes within its path. It's a lot like a goldfish in that it'll just keep eating and eating and growing and growing. Additionally, the monster does not need to mate to reproduce, so if it's not dealt with soon, they can become a massive problem for bigger cities. Next up, we have the Chernobog, which is a new monster created completely for the Netflix series. In the Slavic folklore, a Chernobog is a god of bad fate, which makes sense considering it's summoned after the shattering of the monoliths that held back monsters from other worlds. The Chernobog within the show appears much like a giant dragonoid, except covered in stellacite, which is a mineral found only in the monoliths and believed to originate from the same world that these monsters inhabit. Additionally, within the Witcher video games, there is a Chernobog runestone that adds attack power when put into weapons, but it doesn't seem like those two are related in any way. Basilisks are another form of dragonoid that appear during the final battle at Kaer Morhen between the Witchers and Voleth Mir, who was inhabiting Ciri's body. Basilisks within the show don't really resemble the same creature within the games or books, as basilisks in the books resemble a fairly even mixture of a giant bird and a dragon, complete with beak, bird claw, and feathers. Basilisks within the show lack a bit of the same features, but retain enough to still call them the same creature. It's a weird creative decision, but still an interesting design. Basilisks within the Witcher universe were feared for the belief that they could turn somebody to stone with their gaze. However, that is just folklore. Basilisks are extremely powerful creatures whose most dangerous weapon is their venom, which is one of the more dangerous toxins in the world. Additionally, their size, speed, strength, and flight make them nasty for basically anybody who isn't a professional monster hunter. Lastly, we have Voleth Mir, a demon that feeds upon pain, the Deathless Mother. This specific type of demon also does not appear within the books or the games. It's a new creature that's created out of a combination of different types of demons and witches from folklore. I know that that's not as exciting as me telling you about something that already exists, but what can I do? Mir seems to be a combination of a crone, or a type of witch that lives within the woods and grants protection or power to those that serve her, as well as a phantom, which is essentially a specter. Mir also seemed to have a parasitic relationship with others, as she required a vessel in order to go stronger. And lastly is another honorable mention, which is the Wild Hunt, as they were shown towards the end of the season. However, keep in mind that the producers for the show have stated that the Wild Hunt is essentially their endgame level threat. We will probably make an entire video covering just the Wild Hunt in the future, so just to give you some basic info on them, they are a group of specters that serve as the main antagonist of a tremendous amount of Witcher content. The group themselves are incredibly powerful, and they hail from the world of Tirnalia. As for right now, the only things that you really need to know about them is that they are mainly focused on capturing Ciri due to her elder blood. In addition to being incredibly powerful fighters, they also command a wide array of various magics, including the ability to teleport and crippling white frost capable of freezing nearly anything in an instant. Additionally, they tend to ride across the sky, and it's said that seeing them is usually an omen of impending doom. And that is about it for this video, or at least for most of the monsters in Witcher Season 2, and it was a little bit lighter in monster content this season, but I think it's because they're really trying to get more into the meat of the story between Geralt and Ciri. Hopefully whenever Season 3 rolls around, we'll have an entire new video chocked full of new monsters that Geralt has killed. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you learned a lot, and if you did, consider liking and subscribing. This has been Nick with Key Issues, and remember the motto, Witcher over everything.